Welcome to Unleashed. And don't forget to join us on Patreon for early access and exclusive content.
Is everybody hungover enough? We're going to rank some Star Wars today. I'm James Zazili. That's Brock Smink. Above him is Andrew Fantasia. There are 11 Star Wars live-action films, theatrical live-action films, Brock. Don't get too excited about the Ewoks.
Caravan of Courage. One day will be your day.
Caravan of Courage, we might include on next year's list. This is our fourth time doing this list. Traditionally, it's been Empire and Jedi 1 and 2. Andrew, you suspect we'll see a change on the top two spots?
Suspect? No. Hope? Yes.
Brock?
Hope, that's a word they use in our movies.
Oh, rebellions were built on hope. Behind me, I have a December 2019 calendar. That's got to be ripped down. It is now January 2020. I don't have a new calendar yet. They haven't gone on sale. That's when I get mine. It's when they're on sale. We lost Brock's video. That's going to happen throughout the day. Don't worry. So this list, this is the way it works here. We rank all 11 films from quote-unquote best to quote-unquote worst. This is the definitive list. It is the three of us plus Rob plus Aaron over here on Rebel Scum Podcast plus our Patreon subscribers. And this year we got help from some friends, and those friends are as follows. We had Adat Chat, Nick over at Adat Chat, M and Lutheran from Girls with Sabers, Den and Nerds, both Josh and Ken, Tight Talk, Pete Fletcher from Around the Galaxy, Rob from Bring the Pain, Darth Daddy Lunga from the Grey Council, all sent in lists for us to use on today's show. We add all of those lists together, and what you see is what you get based on that. And I will tell you this. The Last Jedi was number one on quite a few lists and was and it was rivaling Attack of the Clones for the bottom of a lot of other lists. So that one, there was no middle ground for The Last Jedi. I will tell you that. It was just either same with Attack of the Clones. But The Last Jedi was you love it or why is this even a Star Wars movie? We'll find out where that one ranked as we get going here, because it was exciting putting this together because there were so many of us. I think there was like 30 lists in total when all was said and done. Brock, you ready?
Oh, you know it.
Andrew, you ready?
I think so.
All right, let's just get number 11. Let's just get number 11 out of the way. Andrew, you know what it is. Why don't you tell us?
I don't want to because I don't want to admit what it is.
Number 11, as always, is Attack of the Clones. That was my reaction too. This is not last on my list. Andrew wasn't last on your list. Or Brock, it actually wasn't last on your list. Andrew, this is your favorite of the prequel films. Talk to me.
When people say they're not fans of the prequels, I can understand. What I can understand, even if I live to be 100 years old, is why this is universally supposedly the worst prequel. I will never understand how you can look at that first 20 minutes of Revenge of the Sith and say, yeah, this is better than Attack of the Clones. I don't get it, man. I don't. Attack of the Clones is for me, it's the pinnacle of the prequels. It is so much gosh darn fun from start to finish. It really just kind of goes for it the whole way through. You have so much there to chew on. I think it expands the universe of Star Wars more than any movie has, period. I can't get enough of this movie, and I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Brock?
You baffle me, Star Wars fans. You baffle me.
Well, James, somebody has to be at the bottom.
Yep.
But you know what? I do feel like there is a new vibe for just Star Wars movies in general, and we'll definitely talk about it in the next like 30 to 40 minutes. But thinking of like how much you love the show Clone Wars, it's like without this movie, you kind of don't have it, and it's kind of makes this stuff a lot better because it's like this is the first time you get to go to Kamino. And then you understand like who the clones are that you heard about in A New Hope, or what the Clone Wars were in general. It's very exciting. Geonasis, one of my favorite levels in Battlefront, the original version. So yeah, awesome. And then yeah, it ends with a cool, or not ends. Well, yeah, no, it ends with a cool like what do you call that thing where they fight the creatures? Amphitheater.
Yeah, man, the Coliseum.
Coliseum, yeah.
Coliseum, like that. That's a really cool scene. Doesn't get enough respect. So.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, the issue with this one is the wooden acting and dialogue. And my least, I love this movie. I think it was, I don't even know what my list was. It was high on my list though. But I think what it is though is that Droid Factory sequence is also kind of machismo. I think it's very cheesy. And the wooden acting, I think that gets to a lot of people, and it's more, I think, the memory of this movie in their minds than the movie itself, and that ranks it so low. But I love it. That's where we are. You guys ready to go to number 10?
You know it.
I don't know if any of you are ready to go to number 10.
I can't believe my number 2 movie was in the last place.
It's actually very true. Don't worry, Andrew. This list is essentially the reverse of your order, because your number 1 movie is number 10.
Oh, God.
Yes. Yeah, number 10 is The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
This one was number 1, I think, on 4 or 5 lists, and dead last on a lot of other lists. Like I said, it was rarely middle of the pack for anybody. If anybody had it towards the middle, it was either you love it or you hate it, like I said, and I think that speaks volumes for what it is. I also think this is the kind of film that a movie that just came out, like The Rise of Skywalker, and time is going to make a lot of people appreciate this movie more. I think that's what, I think in 20 years when we're doing these rankings, because we still will be, this will be possibly higher on the list, and we'll all forget the hatred that it suffered. Brock, your thoughts on The Last Jedi? Number 10.
This is disappointing because, especially, it's amazing how a new movie coming out will sort of change how you look at something. And in the last, how long has Rise of Skywalker been out now? Like 2 weeks?
Yeah.
It has had its effect on Last Jedi. Where, like, I was listening to Kevin Smith's spoiler episode on last, and they were pointing how many times in Rise of Skywalker it's such a slam against Last Jedi. Like, I'm sure him and JJ and Ryan get along as colleagues, but like, there's so much. At the end of the day, Rise of Skywalker might be maybe more enjoyable than Last Jedi as a whole, I suppose. But like, it's more fan. It's catering to the fans. It's what is that, fan
service? When
you like give them what?
Fan service.
Fan service. Thank you. But like, Last Jedi actually attempts to take the formula and change it, flip it on its head. Like, say what you want about Kylo Ren in that movie, his like throw the past away, destroy it is like, it's like a siren song, battle cry. Like, today is the new day for Star Wars. So yeah, I think I fully agree with you, James. Like, I think come 2036, when Andrew said off camera that Netflix will get Rise of Skywalker, and that's when he'll watch it again. We'll have more respect for Last Jedi. But what do I know? I just have a Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, you know nothing. Okay, Andrew, Last Jedi.
Yeah, this was my number 1, and it was last year too, if I remember right. It just it's got there's a power to this movie. There's a magic to this movie that puts it just a cut above the rest. And yeah, I think it's got flaws like they all do. Even Empire Strikes Back, fight me. But it's it's still a beautiful movie that I think did things to my brain and my heart that I never expected a Star Wars movie to do. Out of a Star Wars movie that has never happened before. In the 8 movies of this saga that I've seen in theaters now, It just had this profound effect on my heart, on my soul, on this finger. All of my whole body was affected by this movie, and it still retains that even now when I rewatch it again. It's just like, yeah, I can't have this anywhere other than number one.
I think I want to have a talk with you guys another time on another show and figure out what this movie did that was so different from other Star Wars movies. Because when I watch Star Wars movies, it's still Empire Strikes Back in reverse. And I don't know, I just never found any of it that... I love the movie, but it was higher than 10 on my list. I'll tell you that. But it was never... although I did like 5 lists. I don't know which one I counted for me. But it never, like, the twists in this one never shocked me because they were all Star Wars predictable twists. And I'm still trying to figure out what is so different about this movie. Because if you compare it, Andrew, to, and it makes sense that your number 1 and 2 are Attack of the Clones, it's just like Attack of the Clones also. It's just there. And then the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, when they take out Dooku's the same as taking out Snoke. So I still don't think it did that much different for Star Wars. But it's a damn good movie. I think what it is it is an exhausting movie, and that's why you need a movie like Rise of Skywalker to come right after it. Just like Empire Strikes Back is an exhausting movie, and you need a movie like Return of the Jedi to come right after it.
Yeah, I think it's I think what sets it aside from other Star Wars, the plot is the same to an extent. It's like you shoot, and then I'll shoot, and then you shoot, and then I win. But or you lose or I win. But there's like the concepts that are being put out, I think, is the thing that makes it defined, you know. And like there was a point where we're like, maybe Kylo Ren isn't going to redeem himself. He's just the new villain, and then Rey doesn't have to be anybody. You can just be the person that the Force needs. Like it's Luke in A New Hope, where like he's just a guy. And then in Empire, like, oh, he's more than just a guy.
Mm-hmm. And do you want the final word?
No, I like it. I like what Mark just said. There you
go. Imagine if number 9 is your number 3, Andrew. It's not, but could you just imagine? All right. Let's go to number 9. Number 9 actually was, I think, your dead last one, Andrew. I think number 9 is your dead last. This was another one. This is the hashtag 3rd best Star Wars film. And that's Solo, a Star Wars story.
No, that's not my dead last.
It wasn't?
No.
Hold on. No, it was not. Sorry. It was. Your dead last is pretty high up on the list. This was dead last on, I will tell you, on several. But it was mostly middle of the pack. It's Solo, a Star Wars story, middle of the pack. It was middle of the pack for mine as well. It wasn't hashtag 3rd best Star Wars film. But you know what? I just watched it yesterday, to be honest. I still enjoy the movie. I think it's a fun ride. The one negative towards this movie that I really realized probably in October, maybe even April during Star Wars Celebration, is that as much as I do enjoy this movie, and I watched it yesterday just kind of as a movie, not as a Star Wars movie, and that it is the most useless and forgettable Star Wars movie we have. I love it, but it doesn't do anything for anything. It's just kind of like there. I mean, that could change if you give me that, you know, like a Maul storyline with Kira, but right now it's just kind of like, eh. Andrew?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's number 10 for me, and you're right. It's got that sort of, you know, we only have 2 spin-offs in this franchise so far. And after Rogue One, we got a lot of, you know, like talk about, okay, let's take these characters and do other things with them. We're getting that Cassian show. A lot of stuff feels like it's spun from Rogue One. And nothing kind of like everything in Solo feels like it just exists in Solo so far. They haven't really played with it more. And I think there's a lot to play with. I know this is something, like I acknowledge this is a dumb, nitpicky reason to have a movie so low on my list, but it does bug me, and I think like just at the end of the day, if this movie was lit better, I would like it better. I'm just gonna say it. If it was lit better, I would like it better. And I don't dislike it. It's just, you know, something's got to be second last place for me. So that's where it fell. I had a lot of fun with Solo, and I like the new characters we meet. and I like the new worlds we see. And it's, you know, it does what a good Star Wars should do: is it expands the universe, shows you more, and tells you fun stories. I think that it could have been a lot worse, but it just could have been a lot better too.
I think Solo had the cinematography of The Mandalorian. We'd be having a different conversation. Brock, Solo.
I mean, I love this movie. It deserves to be at least middle of the pack because it's an attempt that they tried. And it's funny how a show like The Mandalorian can do so well, and there's reasons. I'm not saying like the Solo movie is better than Mandalorian. But it's still a story that, do we need it? Like, yeah, we love Baby Yoda and we want to know more, but like, we still could have had Star Wars and not Mandalorian. I think it was plagued by bad production choices, whatever. And yeah, I think like the story got, because they had to bring in a new director and because the story had to slightly change because certain actors couldn't be in it and what have you or whatever. I don't know. I didn't see Lord Miller's movie, so I can't really rate it. There are things in the movie that are very, very cool. L3 as Millennium Falcon is very cool. I think Lando is completely underused in this movie, and it's almost kind of ruins what we knew about him so far. It's like they have to make a second one for it to make sense, because it's like, how do you go from I just won the Millennium Falcon in a card game to we just met on Cloud City? Like, there's that weird, like, I don't know how that exactly works, but if we're getting a second movie, then I think people will be like, oh, maybe Solo will be good. But yeah, and it's, as much as I want to see more Darth Maul stuff, it does feel like oh, what character can we put in that would surprise him? But I still love the movie. I think Alden Ehrenreich and Jonas Suotamo, Han and Chewie deserve another movie. But yeah, I guess you're right. It's kind of like the Ant-Man of the Star Wars universe. It's fun, but you're like, is this worthwhile?
Yeah, it has no bearing on anything at all. Yeah. It's like there's Han meets Chewie. I think to your point about Lando, yeah, like the way Lando's portrayed, the way the relationship is portrayed in this, there's no way for that Cloud City reunion to make any sort of sense unless there's another movie. Because if they would have already known each other at the beginning of this movie, then we could all agree like Cloud City might benefit from this movie. But they meet and then he destroys his ship, so there's nothing there. Andrew, we're going to get you a flashlight next time you watch it, so you're not afraid of the dark.
Yes, please. And I don't know if somebody's done this already. I'm sure somebody's done it, but I'd love to see some kind of cut where they take the scene from the very end of Rise of Skywalker with the old lady with the camel. It's like, who are you? Rey who? And Rey's like, I don't have a last name. And he just cuts to that Imperial guy, Rey Alono.
Rey, weird girl in desert.
Okay, I remember that scene in the theater. I was like, oh, Rob is reeling right now. Nobody hates this moment more than Rob McDonald, and I still think that's true. All right, number 8, I'm going to call it right now as the most controversial ranking on, well, maybe The Last Jedi. But then at the same time, you love or hate Last Jedi, so you can understand why it's so low. But this one shocked me. This is the number 8 is The Force Awakens, Star Wars Episode 7, wow. The Force Awakens. I'm not gonna lie, this one annually is at the bottom of my list. We all know why, and I'm not going to exhaust that. It's a fun as hell movie. This one and Revenge of the Sith are the only two I watched on Disney Plus. This one not on purpose. I accidentally played on Disney Plus instead of my digital copy, but I didn't care because it was the same movie, shockingly. But I watched it, and I have a lot of fun with it. It's still, there's some questions in it that confuse me. But I was surprised that this one was so low, because this was what the thing with this one is, it seemed like it was the middle of the pack on everybody's list to low. And then the problem is the other 7 in front of this were higher most often. And that's really what it is. This, though, I think of all of the new movies we've got, and the experience going to the theater watching this was the most fun that I've had, even though it is bottom of towards the bottom of my list. It still was the most fun. It was the first Star Wars we got in 15 years, and we'll never get that excitement back. Andrew?
I have Force Awakens at number 5, and it was like, I get it. It's a very, safe movie. It doesn't tread a whole lot of new ground. I don't want to use the word watered down because it's not watered down, but it is a very basic Star Wars experience, and it didn't bother me that it was. It did what it meant to do. It awokened the Force in me. Like, after I watched it, I was excited. I was like, oh my God, Star Wars is back. I literally, that night, I went home and I wrote that Phantom Menace script that I wrote, because I was just, my juices were flowing again thanks to that movie. It awoke the imagination in me. So I'm always going to love Force Awakens for that. I get it. It's just a safe movie. It is very a middle of the road kind of movie, but it had so much to love. It introduced us to so many new and exciting things that have carried on. So, like, why the hell wouldn't you like this? This is a great film.
Brock?
I think this ranks a bit better than what it got on this ranking.
You say that, but then we look at the other movies and they're all Star Wars. Brock?
This is a good movie. It's interesting looking at this movie and then looking at Rise of Skywalker, because now we have two movies written by the same guy that isn't George Lucas, and you get really sense like JJ loves jokes, and I think he introduced the concept of humor into the Star Wars universe. I know you could say a lot of things are funny in the original. Well, like, that's not how the Force works. I feel like I've been using that line the last couple, like, I think that's important, like, that we can look at this series in a different way. This is a love letter to New Hope. So I think on my list, I put them side by side. And I think New Hope is one.
Hold on, I'm checking. No,
maybe like dead center of my list, give or take.
Yeah, they were close. Yeah.
So yeah, it's great.
I agree with you. I think the thing that's funny is when people complain about Rise of Skywalker, how it's not like Last Jedi, but then they praise Force Awakens.
I think the problem too is, like, you compare it to A New Hope, but you said this, James, the other day when we were recording. A New Hope is a movie that just exists on its own.
Yeah.
It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Force Awakens is plagued by the fact that whenever there's a Star Wars movie now, there has to be like, oh, how are we going to jump to the next movie? It's like, it can't be just a movie that sort of exists on its own. I guess Solo kind of has a beginning, middle, and end. But again, it still ends with, like, Darth Maul was like, oh, I'm here. By the by, I'm still alive. So, again, I think going forward, Star Wars movies just, like, I think it would be revolutionary, and this sounds insane. Just make one movie, and then that's it. Like, make a movie, and then you make another movie, and the only link is that it's happening in the same galaxy. That's it.
I absolutely hope whatever comes next is just one movie, and then they're like, oh, it was good, we'll do a sequel. That's what I hope. And then from there, maybe they plan a second sequel, and that's how the story goes. But, not everything, like Andrew, you're like, I think Kathy Kennedy even said that, though, right? She's not going to handcuff herself in trilogies, which I think is perfect. They didn't need to do that with the sequel trilogy at all. They could have just made sequels. Could have been 7, 8, 9. Andrew, I know you wanted that forever. So maybe you're getting your wish now. All right. Number 7. This one is way too low on the list. This is Brock's least favorite Star Wars film because he has zero taste. It's The Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace got, I think this is the highest it's ever been.
Yes. But The Last Jedi, next year Last Jedi will probably be number 1. So this is the high. I was actually, when I went through it, and the thing that's cool about having this many people is I was born in 81. You were born in, Andrew was born in 87, Brock, you're 84. But then we have like 99s, we have 2000, whatever. Like their age, and we have 70s. I think there's, we have.
That's really cool.
Yeah, like there's this age range that goes on. And you notice, I will say this, I noticed that the 20-year-old age from 20 to 30, high on the prequels. So that was what made it really cool to see, was how different our lists all were. And every time somebody had Empire Strikes Back #1, I erased them. All right, Phantom Menace, Brock.
Podcasting, pod racing, very fast, very dangerous. Yeah, I don't know. Someone I think it was Kevin Smith compared like something to midichlorians from Rise of Skywalker. It was like, the diadem or whatever that Kylo and Rey have together. It's like, this is like the midichlorians of it. Phantom Menace is, it's sort of, I feel like Phantom Menace and Force Awakens kind of should live together near A New Hope. A New Hope is A New Hope. Like, don't get it twisted. It is the OG. It deserves respect. It is. It should win. It should be put in the Hall of Fame every year, or it's, it should always be mentioned because it is the original. Something has to reinvigorate my love for the prequels. The Clone Wars does a lot of good work, but like, it's, I don't know. I felt bad. I think I put my Phantom Menace so low because I didn't want to put Attack of the Clones at the bottom. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old and sentimental. I always loved it when it was I loved it watching it for the first time in theaters when I was like a teenager. So you know what? There's no hatred. Okay, we're on position 7, 6 right now. I'm gonna spoil the rest for you. I'm gonna say I love all these movies because whatever. Phantom Menace, pod racing, great. Thank you.
Andrew, did you talk about this one?
No, I didn't. So, wait, Brock, you have Phantom Menace as your last one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Look, it's not the best made movie. It's not. But I'm going to echo what Brock said. I love all the movies on this list, even my number 11. They're all great. The thing with Phantom Menace is I have it at 9, so it's pretty low. The thing with Phantom Menace for me is that it reminds me of my childhood more than the original trilogy does. Even though I saw them first, and I had to wait about 4 or 5 years between seeing that and seeing Phantom Menace. I guess because, I lived in the world of this movie is coming out, and the media and the merchandise and all of that, it consumed my world. I wasn't born in the late 70s, early 80s, folks. I didn't get to see that blitz happen in real time. I had to experience it after the fact. So this was the one, more than anything, that hits me in the rose-tinted nostalgia feels. Because remember, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith for me were high school. Both of those were high school movies. So this was sort of the last Star Wars of my childhood before I became a teenager. And I'm always going to love it for that. I'm always going to look back fondly at the memories of like calling my cousin up and being like, oh my God, you saw it, how was it? And talking about things and flipping through those books where it's like, this is Watto, he lives on Tatooine, and just like having a blast with that. There's something special about being the right age at the right time for this movie. So I could never hate it, even though it's always going to be low on my list. I hope we never get movies that are worse and go lower. But it's always going to be high in my heart. And I think that's what counts.
I've only come out of the theater from 2 Star Wars films saying, that might be my favorite Star Wars movie. Phantom Menace is one of them. You're both wrong, and it should be way higher on the list. Number 6, Rogue One.
What?
Well, where else is it going to go, Brock? Like, we're literally at the middle now.
No, it should be higher.
This is, Brock, I think it was last year, a year and a half ago, you read this article, and it was like, Star Wars movies from divisive to whatnot, and this was the number 1 on it, where it was the most least divisive movie of them all.
Yeah.
And I think this is exactly where this should be. Do I like it better than sixth? I believe it is higher than sixth on my list. However, when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. It is right dead set in the middle of everyone's movies of like their love of Star Wars. It's right in the middle. Andrew, why don't you go first on Rogue One?
I think Rogue One might be one of the movies that fluctuates the most for me, because there's a lot of parts I'll think of and be like, oh my God, that was fantastic. And then a lot of other parts I'll think of and be like, yeah, but it was like so-so compared to the other ones and stuff. So I don't know why. I don't know what it is about Rogue One, but it really fluctuates a lot. And at the time of making this list for this, I had it at number 7. And
because you hate Star Wars. Because you hate Star Wars.
Because I hate Star Wars, and I'm an SJW with an agenda. So that's where it fell for me. And I couldn't even tell you why it fell there. It's just at the right moment. That's what it felt like. It felt like, okay, I own every movie except Rise of Skywalker. Which one do I want to put on right now? And Rogue One was my 7th choice. There's a lot to love here. There's a lot more Star Wars in this movie, which we all like. I think that the middle of the road, the middle of the list is a good place for Rogue One. And I think this is the closest any movie is going to be on the final tally compared to my list.
Brock?
Yeah, I just expected this to be higher, but like I based it on people that aren't us, like regular people that have regular jobs and do regular things. When they talk about the new Star Wars movies, the common comment is that like Rogue One seems to be the most favored out of the non-Star Wars fanatics that aren't like us. So that's why I assume people put it higher. But then none of those people are already on this list. It's a great movie though. It's the first step they took to like, well, what if we did something slightly different? And I think it works. It's a bummer though, because like these characters you get used to in 2 hours end up dying at the end. But like, not overly surprising because they're never mentioned again. So, whatever. They now can be. I guess it's like if you spy for the rebellion, you're inevitably gonna die. Rogue One crew, Bothans, and now General Hux. Everybody dies if they try to betray the evil villains. But yeah, I think it's great, and I think without Rogue One, you don't get a Mandalorian. So, hooray! But yeah, it should definitely, if not higher, it should be definitely in the middle of the pack. It truly should be side by side with A New Hope because they're just like we were saying earlier. It's a movie with a beginning and middle, and just the difference with Rogue One is you get to see de-aged Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, I will say this is the Mandalorian of the movies. This is the Mandalorian of the movies. This is what people want, and it's fun. Anyway, I have some thoughts on it that I'm not going to say here because I don't. People are annoying. Brock, you say it should go side by side with A New Hope. It does. Number 5, A New Hope. I think it's a perfect 1-2 punch. People are all thinking like, wow, you can't have one without the other. And that's the way it is. I think, Rogue One beautifully blends into A New Hope. Sure, there are some things you're like, well, that doesn't make sense, but who cares? I remember the second time we went to go see it, Brock, we left the theater, and Aaron and I were both like, we just want to watch A New Hope now. And we put it on that January evening, early January, whatever year it was, 2017, 16, and 2017, and we watched A New Hope right after we got home from the theater, watching it for the second time. So I think it's a good 1-2 punch. 5. Look, last thing I'll say about A New Hope is it is the best Star Wars movie. Andrew, it's not number 1 on my list, but it's the best Star Wars movie easily. Andrew,
it's number 8 on my list, and depending who you ask, they tell you it's either because something's got to be number 8 or it's because I hate Star Wars and I'm secretly a Disney fanboy at heart and they're paying me. But there's nothing super wrong with A New Hope at all. It's just like every other Star Wars. I love it despite its flaws. And I think it's just, it's so basic compared to the other ones. It's so simple that it gets overshadowed. It lives in their shadow, and that's fine. You're probably never going to top the climax of A New Hope. Well, I'm going to rephrase that. I want something to top the climax of A New Hope, but I don't think any of the climaxes we've gotten in the movies on this list have topped the climax of A New Hope. So you've got that going for it. You know, in 42 years, you still haven't topped that climax. That's saying something. So there's never going to not be love for A New Hope. I had it at number 8. It was the 8th one I felt like watching. There you go. What are you going to do?
Brock?
A New Hope. It's good. I feel like it gets missed because it's a typical movie, but like without this movie, you don't get a lot of other things. So it's like I think we forget like what it did for film storytelling and film effects in general. Like I think I said one thing I did miss from Rise of Skywalker is more of that model look of the space battles, but like the CG you see in Rise of Skywalker, like that is what George Lucas was trying to go for. So it's still wild because it's still easy to watch. I mean, again, as much as A New Hope is on like the AFI Top 100 for like what it did for film, it's also one of those movies that's been redone so many times. But like you're introduced to our characters and it's so great. Yeah, you just sort of can't outdo it. But again, like, what are we ranking? The best movie or your favorite movie? And for me, it's New Hope. Just sort of, it's your. I don't know what to compare it to. It's that thing that's just always there. So you maybe don't appreciate it enough until it's gone. So until Disney locks it up in the vault, I don't know if they're gonna do that anymore.
McClunky.
They're always gonna like it.
No, it'll be around forever. It's timeless. Also, it is. I think every time I watch it, I'm like, damn, this is a freaking solid movie that requires no previous knowledge or no future knowledge. It's just it is what it is. The standalone Star Wars movie before they decided to make standalone Star Wars movies that relied heavily on other Star Wars movies. All right. I said we were going to do this at number 3, but let's do it now. We did mention that our Patreons were a huge part of these rankings, for better or worse, guys, as well as some of our podcast and YouTube friends out there. I forgot. Rodman Vogt from Brixley Blockade was also a part of this list. I didn't put his name down in the beginning because I forget things. His name was separate. So why don't you guys run down our Patreon supporters who helped us forge this definitive list together. Brock, why don't you start?
Okay. Executive producer Heidi Feder, Barry Brophy, Dennis Allen, Christine Allison, Mary Kristen Athen, Jeff Wilson, Aaron Quinton, Al Schuler, Phil Staniforth, Austin Schur, Scott D, Andy Higgins, Josh Price,
Mason Hop, Matt W, Tony Comstock, Rural Farm Boy, Frank Perkins, Sooner Thrawn, Neil Lowry, D Raven, Spencer, Matt Dallas, DJ Blake, Gleek Play 1, Janet Rubio, Charlotte, Kayla Davis, Girls with Sabers, and The Den that has nerds in it.
And also, and 2 others that I have to mention as well because I forget everything is Hawks Holocron, Scotty Hawk, and Star Wars fan film creator Jericho Kane. So those all were a part of it. I think that's everyone. I'm so bad at this. I wrote everything down so I wouldn't forget, and I forgot. So life goes on. Ready for number 4, guys?
Yes.
Number 4.
Or no.
I was really, when these first came in, I expected the Revenge of the Sith to be very, very high. And it was very high. Not as high as I was anticipating based on early entrance into this list. But Revenge of the Sith is number 4. Brock, before Andrew goes crazy with hate, tell me about Revenge of the Sith and your thoughts on it making it number 4.
I mean, it's arguably one of the better films because it's like so much stuff happens in it, but then there's like a lot of stuff that's like it's like she died of a broken heart. You're like, can she just be strangled to death? Like that would as much as that's weird, like, yeah. But, you know, we also, you know, you get the, do you know the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? And, like, we're introduced to Mustafar, and, like, arguably one of the best. I think the Obi-Wan Anakin lightsaber battle, it can kind of go to toe-to-toe with Duel of the Fates and Phantom Menace, but it's sort of like Duel of the Fates is interesting because, one, there's a lot of stuff happening, but then we know what's going to happen in Revenge of the Sith, because it's like, okay, this is the moment. This is where he becomes Darth Vader. So, spoilers if anyone has seen Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, I mean, the prequels were always haunted by the fact that we know what's going to happen. So, it was, you know what? I think the prequels really give us a reason to care about the Jedi Council, and then especially with this movie where you see them all just betrayed by their clone confidants. General Grievous, one of the best villains, not given enough screen time. Again, another thing saved by the Clone Wars show. So I'm impressed that this is higher. I don't feel it's ever gone this high, James. Am I wrong?
I don't think so.
This is wild.
I told you we have a lot more of that 20 to 30 age range, and a lot of them have this. It was number one on quite a few. I was very, very impressed. Andrew, deep breaths. I was very impressed with how many number ones this was. No, I've never seen it this high. Andrew, deep breaths.
And this is number 5?
4. Come on. It's not that bad.
Number 4.
Look at your face. I want a screen
Number 4. Wow. Wow. You know what? Good for it. Good for it. Round of applause, number 4. That's I never thought I'd see the day. Look, this is my number 11. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is way down at the bottom, and I hope going forward 30, 40 years from now, I hope this is still as bad to me as Star Wars ever gets. I guess when it comes to these movies in particular, because they are such crazy, wacky movies, I think, you know, your ranking really depends on just how much of a movie's flaws are you willing to overlook in favor of its high points. And that's why it's so low for me, because I love the high points very much, but the flaws are, for me, the hardest to overlook in this film than they are in any of the other films. And they get under my skin at some points too. Like I said with Last Jedi, like I never walked out of a Star Wars movie feeling, you know, so alive in my mind and soul. With Revenge of the Sith, I've never walked out of a Star Wars movie having gone so many times during the movie. There's a lot to love, though. I'll give it that. I mean, Darth Plagueis, that opera scene, that's a great scene. The Mustafar duel, I don't care. People say it's like a garbage CGI fest. I think that's a really cool duel. It's the only time you ever see a duel with the same colored sabers, so that's pretty neat too. There's a lot to love in this movie, despite all its huge flaws. So you know what? Good for you, Revenge of the Sith, getting so high on the list. I like seeing upsets like this. I think it's insane that it topped A New Hope. I never thought I'd see that day come, but hey, it is what it is, baby.
Yeah, it is. You know what? I have I won't give the actual numbers, but Revenge of the Sith was closer to. So Revenge of the Sith, New Hope, and Rogue One were very much clumped together, very, very close together. And that, like, Rogue One was 4 points off of A New Hope, and A New Hope was 3 points off of Sith. So very close, very close. And that's why actually just before we recorded this, there was a couple people I hadn't heard from, like, give me your lists. We need to get this sorted out. All right, top 3 coming up. This is the big one. Brock, what do you suspect is number 3?
I'm gonna go Rise of Skywalker, because I just don't think it's the year that Empire and Jedi get bumped out on 1 and 2. So
you are absolutely right. Rise of Skywalker comes in at number 3. When I was first putting it together, I was really hoping that we would get a new number 1 or number 2, and it was looking like Revenge of the Sith was really going to take over those one of those spots, but of course it just fell short of it. So Brock, Rise of Skywalker, number 3. Critics hate it. Real Star Wars fans hate it, but we love it.
Yeah, you know what? It's just a good movie. I think it's, as much as we're like, oh, I want to know more about Rey and what happens with her. Like, this just needs to end. Like, this is the end of this story. We're going to move on. So, like, no one can really complain. They will complain because Star Wars fans are the worst, and we're one of them. So,
it's true.
But is it the best Star Wars movie? No. Is it the worst? No. It's a middle of the road sort of movie. There's a lot of great things in it. I think they put a little bit extra in it because they're like, well, this is the last time this person's going to get to do this or this and this. So it's like, I think it's the funniest Star Wars movie for sure. C-3PO and Babu Frick. I could just watch 2 hours of just those guys. It has its flaws and it has its pluses. There's, I think I said at first, the only thing I didn't like was like the getting Palpatine into the story is a little weak, but I don't hate him as the villain of this movie. It's just explaining it because it's a definite left turn when we were going straight with Last Jedi. It's sort of like, oh wait, what about this and this? Is like, okay, cool. Like it works, but as I've watched it a second time, still love the movie. There's just parts where like, why did you do this? And like I said earlier, there seems to be a lot of slams to Rian Johnson, which doesn't make me not want to watch this movie, but it's just like, yeah, like.
But arguably,
I don't think it's a personal vendetta. I think it's just, well, we'll give the fans what they want. And I think if you aren't happy with this movie, well, guess what? This is, I don't like to think J.J. Abrams is listening to the internet. Because I said in the past, it's like, it bothers me when the internet gets it right. Because they shouldn't be able to guess what's happening. So
I see the whole slams against J.J. I'm still like, first of all, if it is, we praised Rian Johnson for slamming what we saw before. So why are we knocking J.J. Abrams for it? This fandom is ridiculously dumb. And I love you all, but like just these arguments, like these, it's like you can't praise someone for doing one thing and then somebody doing the same thing, but to the one that you love and you hate it. It's either I like to think of this as story progression. And he took The Last Jedi and said, well, this is what I took away from it. Personally, here's what I'm going to do. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Because I've said this to Andrew a bunch of times. If I wrote Side Scroller 2, I would interpret everything the way I interpret it. And I would just do what I was going to do. And if he took something I did and he did a sequel, he would do it in his way. And it would contradict some things that I thought and vice versa. Because that's just the way it is. We're two individual people with individual minds. And oh my God, these movies work very well together.
Rise of Skywalker was my number 6.
Because you hate Star Wars.
Because I hate Star Wars and women. The thing with Rise of Skywalker for me, like I dig this movie so much, and I can't wait to watch it again. I had so much fun watching it. I think I think the reason it ended up being on my list, it ended up being my least favorite of the sequels. I think it's just because, again, like I said earlier, it has, to me, just a few more flaws than the others. Like if I could go in and tinker with all the movies when it comes to the sequels, this is the one I would tinker with the most. And if there's one thing, I think like you can see JJ being much more comfortable in this one than he was in Force Awakens. Like you can see him kind of stretching and being more at ease. But I think if there's one thing that JJ didn't learn his lesson from the Force Awakens is that, and like there's so many complaints particularly in Star Wars, from fans who simply, they're just complaining because they didn't get what they wanted or what they expected. And when it comes to that, like, my only note to JJ, because I know he's watching, is, dude, don't show the Knights of Ren or C-3PO holding a crossbow in any of your promo material, because that BS did not matter. It did not matter. And I don't think he's learned that lesson from the whole Phasma thing that people hated so much in Force Awakens. I think it's almost like he doubled down on that. He's like, well, I'm going to show you more stuff that doesn't show up in the movie at all. And those didn't super bother me. I really could have used another Knights of Ren scene myself, but I can just imagine people who hate this movie using those as springboards for their complaints. And I'm just like, JJ, it's nobody's fault but your own for showing that. Like, we did not need to see C-3PO holding that bowcaster in any posters, action figures, nothing. Just have it happen the way it happens in the movie. Just don't show it to us. Like, because people's minds are going to wander, and what you gave them was not anything. So whatever their minds wandered to, you're going to disappoint those people. Those are like just the only things where it's like, okay, this really, you really had to learn that lesson and you didn't. But I love Rise of Skywalker, and I'm going to see it again and again. So there you are.
I think the Knights of Ren were the biggest mistake of the sequel trilogy in terms of what is the point? Like, what is the point? Like, because look, and the arguably, you know, because we talked about this, because Brock, you for 4 years have been looking forward to the Knights of Ren, and we didn't get them in Last Jedi. And in The Force Awakens, it's really a throwaway line, even you, the master of the Knights of Ren. Yeah. Okay, well, that tells us there's some... They could have, like, brushed it off and never shown the Knights of Ren, just in a book been like, well, it's just like some old cult that Kylo Ren joined and blah, blah. But instead, they're like, they're in this movie, and we see them in the flashbacks in The Force Awakens, obviously. But they're in this movie, and so you expect something. Like, what makes them so great that they capture Chewbacca? Like, I like, they don't, like, exactly. So they're like, what? And it's almost like, I completely agree with Rian Johnson making the Praetorian Guards not the Knights of Ren, but I mean, they did more than the Knights of Ren, which surprised the hell out of me. I was really expecting to like the Knights of Ren more than the Praetorian Guards, and we all know how much I like the Praetorian Guards. And really, I'm not going to lie to you. I love this movie. It's very high on my list, but until Andrew just mentioned them, I forgot about the Knights of Ren. Yep. Like, and that is, but so Brock, actually, before we move on to number 2, which is going to surprise everybody, what were you, because I just mentioned for 4 years you were looking forward to Knights of Ren. What were your takeaways from them?
They are lackluster in this movie. It's just so kind of pointless. But there's that comic out, so it's like, I think I didn't get too upset about it because like, oh, we're gonna get an answer here. I think this whole movie suffered from too many trailers, which is just the world we live in now, because it's. Like Andrew's right. I don't mind putting in stuff to like throw people off the scent, but like the whole 3PO story, not the jokes. The jokes were great, but like when you get his storyline in this movie, you kind of figure it out as like moments before things happen, where you're like, oh, he has the information. That's why they're gonna erase his memory, and then. There's like no stakes too. It's well, not that has nothing to do with trailers. I was gonna say there's no stakes because his memory gets back later, but that has nothing to do with the trailers. Yeah, I mean you keep showing this, even like the Vanity Fair pictures of the Knights of Ren, and it's like,
but they're not even in the magazine, and now it makes sense.
And it's
they're
like,
not in the movie.
You had to go and create all these like Sith people, Sith whatever they are in Exegol, just standing there. Just make it the Knights of Ren. Mm-hmm. Just make it, and then you're like, oh, okay. So this is how the Emperor's been alive this long. He has this elite bodyguard, and maybe there's Sith ghosts, or I don't know. I know there's technically not. I'm not sure.
Well, what the hell was Palpatine? Was he even like because he says he died, like he's already been dead, so he's not the same Palpatine that we've seen. He's something else. Like, is he the clone? Is he like, I don't know. There's still questions there, and I'm going to go see it a third time eventually, and we'll figure this one out, and we'll do it all. But yeah, Knights of Ren. Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Andrew, because I forgot all about that.
I think it's too early to tell on this movie. I think it's this high because it's the new one. So I'm highly suspecting it might be lower Maybe it'll be higher, but I think there'll be a different number next year, and we'll be like, yeah.
I will go out on a limb right now, based on the 4 years of doing this, because when Last Jedi came out, I believe Last Jedi was very high. It was like number 3 as well, or something, I think.
Yeah, but I did that out of spite for mine. I know that.
Yeah, I know you did. But I think that Rise of Skywalker is very high on the list. I think it's going to stay. I think it's going to be like Rogue One, New Hope territory by the end of it. It'll be like 5 to 7 range, is what I'm guessing. Hopefully, Revenge of the Sith gets higher. Fantasia, start voting. But now, remember when you were like, I was nervous about doing my list, and I said, "Don't worry, it's not gonna matter." These lists were just so all over the place that it was awesome. All right, number 2. Andrew, what do you suspect number 2 is?
I think this year, Empire took it.
Empire took it. Number 2, Empire Strikes Back, and that's why Rob McDonald is not on this show, because he will lose his mind when he finds out. Empire did take it, and I feel like,
what do I win?
Huh?
What do I win for guessing that?
You can have a Knights of Ren mystery box figure that are now rendered useless.
The box is empty.
Like the fact that the Knights of Ren are in a 2 hour and 21-minute movie, and Baby Yoda is in like 20 minutes of TV shows. That tells you something. Good old all the characters of the Mandalorian. IG-11 has better moments in 1 episode, 2 episodes. And 10 minutes total of screen time than the Knights of Ren have in a 2 hour and 21. Anyway, whatever. Empire Strikes Back, arguably the most well-made Star Wars movie of them all. It was the one that gave us I believe, the twist that has ruined Star Wars movies going forward, and that's the Vader is Luke's father, because now we're always like, oh, everyone, like, we're always expecting some weird twist, and when you don't get it in The Last Jedi, fans revolt. Brock, Empire Strikes Back.
This is where I placed it, number 2, because out of respect.
Did you really?
It's just my favorite. I believe
you did, yeah.
Empire Strikes Back, the original, the original OG. How many times have I said that? The original movie that's like, oh, it's a sad ending, and the first where you walk out of a movie theater, you're shocked. You're like, I can't believe that happened. Like, the good guys are supposed to win. They won last time.
Was that the earnestness of how you said that? But the good guys are supposed to win. They won last time. Why wouldn't they?
That's how my dad reacts to movies. I feel, so I'm just doing my best Frank Smink episode.
Has Frank Smink been dissatisfied with any of the Disney era Star Wars films?
No, but he doesn't put high importance of that movie in his life. Like,
no, but
you know what I mean? They're like,
but isn't it more important to go in and enjoy a movie and walk out?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
So, he's the opposite to your dad, James. Oh,
my dad only likes. My dad liked the prequels though. I just can't figure him out, and he loved Rogue One. But you know what? I'll bet you if Rey and Kylo don't kiss in Rise of Skywalker, he gives that a higher rating.
Yeah, probably.
Look, at the end of Rogue One, you know what he said? What did he say? He goes, they all died and there was no kissing. It was awesome. Anyway. And anyway, I just saw a comment on your review, Andrew, and I don't remember which one who said it, you or Rob, but apparently they're upset that one of you said that you could do without the kiss in Rise of Skywalker. Andrew, Empire Strikes Backeth.
Somebody was upset that I said I could do without the kiss?
Yep.
Sorry, upset person.
Don't be sorry.
Empire Strikes Back was number 4 for me. Let's be real. This is the movie that gives us Dak. So I couldn't put it any lower than 4. Yeah, I like Empire quite a bit. I love cliffhanger endings a lot. So first time I saw this, it might have been the first movie I've ever... No, that's a lie, because I saw Back to the Future 2 before this, so that was the first cliffhanger movie I'd ever seen. But it still hit me in the right way, where I was like, oh my god, I have to watch the third one now. Good thing I have it ready. This wasn't 1980, so I didn't have to wait 3 years. But I wonder what that 3-year wait was like for people, for like diehard people back in the day. And if I could go back in time and talk to Star Wars fans, and I only got like one question to ask, that's what I would ask. Like I would go back to like January 1983 and ask like a diehard fan, like, how has it been waiting all this time to find out the resolution of that story? Because that's a pretty damn cool way to end a movie in 1980. So it's Empire, it's the rise of Dak. What can you say?
I think it's so well made. And the one thing that I always think about now, because everybody compares Last Jedi to Empire, and the one thing that I always think of is in 10 years' time, or even not even, like in the next year when I get to watch the 3 OTs, the PTs, and the STs, when I get to watch them all together, then I get to see Empire and The Last Jedi for what they are in their respective trilogies. And I'm really excited to see Last Jedi with Rise of Skywalker after, because we all know how Empire leads into Jedi, Return of Jedi. All right, number 1, speaking of Return of the Jedi, it has returned to number 1. Return of the Jedi, number 1. My graphic says Return of Jedi because I can't spell. I don't know the name of this one. Return of the Jedi, number 1. Brock, it has Ewoks. Talk to me.
Ewoks, Jabba's palace, Force lightning, Nyan Nyab, Admiral Akbar. It's the first one where we're really, really getting that, like, oh, look at all. There's not just humans there. I mean, yeah, in New Hope you get the Mos Eisley Cantina, but like you kind of stayed away from it. You just had Chewbacca walking around, but it felt like the most alive movie of like, oh, look at all these different things that they can interact with. I think that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite. It's just like, wow, that's so cool. And I think it's a movie why I thought like the space battles in Rise of Skywalker would be more interesting, because it's like there's a lot of stuff happening in the Battle of Endor in the skies and on the ground, and it's just kind of underwhelming in Rise of Skywalker. But I mean, what are you gonna do? I don't know. It's my favorite. It kind of wraps up the storyline, and you're like, oh, maybe the villain's not that bad. But I think we've already said it's like the original trilogies really just ruin anything future. And I think that's why The Mandalorian is so interesting right now, where like they did 8 episodes and you really only need to watch 3 of them. But like they hooked you, and they said, oh, you got to watch this episode now. It has nothing to do with anything, but it's like, we can't be predictable anymore. Otherwise, you're just going to get the same movie and over and over again. It's my favorite. It's always going to be number 1 until it's not. So,
yeah, it's I love Return of the Jedi. Ewoks, obviously. I think you nailed it, though. I think the problem with the sequel trilogy, especially, and what they ended up trying to do with Rise of Skywalker, because I'm not sure before this is what they were trying to do, but the Skywalker saga basically ended at the end of Return of the Jedi, and they had to figure out a way to end it again with the sequel trilogy instead of just continuing on. I think that's the biggest weakness they had, is instead of continuing it on, they're like, oh, no, we're going to wrap up those 6 movies that already wrapped up. But Return of the Jedi wraps everything up very neatly. Obviously, Palpatine's spirit or something happened. So anyway, I love Return of the Jedi. It is usually my number 1. It might have been my number 1 this time. I can't remember what I'm doing as my number 1, because I did 3 lists, and the third one was my last one, and maybe this was my number 1. But Andrew, this didn't even make your list because you hate this movie so much.
Yeah, I made a separate list, and I just had it just say number 50, Return of the Jedi.
Wow.
And, yeah. Return of the Jedi is such a weird, like, it defies the rules of the logic that I've been trying to spew throughout this video, where I say, the only reason I have this one lower is because it has the most flaws that I would want to fix. And what's weird is Return of the Jedi has always been, and it is even now, it's my number 3, my favorite original trilogy movie. But what's weird is, of the original trilogy, it's the one with the most flaws that I would want to fix up. So I don't know what it is about this movie that makes me love it so much despite that. It's funny because looking at the pattern here, I find that every middle chapter of every trilogy I find the least flawed, and every third movie of every trilogy I find the most flawed. That's just how it ended up working. But like Jabba's palace, that whole scene, from the start of the movie to when they're like, "Let's go, don't forget the droids," and they zoom away and it explodes. That whole scene is like one of my favorite things in the world. It's so much fun. Like everything from the way it looks, like the colors are vibrant on Tatooine, and all the characters are there. Like you don't often get all the characters together like that in one spot. It's this beautiful swashbuckling adventure that Star Wars does so well, with a great villain and all the heroes going up against him. And then to top it off, you have, for our first time ever, seeing a CBP in the flesh, and he shows up and he's got his little cane, but we know he doesn't need that cane. We know that's a fake cane.
Just a plot device in that movie.
Yeah.
Just a plot device.
He just shows up and scowls, and he's like, "I want to find rebels," and Darth Vader's like, "Okay," and they bring Luke to the throne room, and there's so much to love that somehow, even though I find it the most flawed of the OT, my love just overcomes those flaws. It smothers it in a warm, chocolatey blanket, and I'm never gonna stop loving Return of the Jedi.
Good. Good. It's fantastic. But you know what? Like we said, all of the movies on this list are fantastic, and that's why we do this podcast. We have this YouTube channel because we all thoroughly enjoy these movies. And I honestly think adding everybody that helped us out with the list this year really, really kind of flip it on its head. What do you guys think of the list overall?
I liked it. It was fun. I'm glad we added more people to it, because it's just like, when you're only adding a new movie every year or so, it's not going to change that drastically. So you need that numbers to be like, because my opinion on certain things have changed, but like one slight deviation in the list isn't going to make it monumental, right? So
now, if I think, sorry, go on, Andrew.
I was just going to say, considering how many people we got, I'm surprised the list wasn't more, wacky. The only real big change / upset was Revenge of the Sith being so high, even above New Hope. Like everything else seemed kind of par for the course. I don't know. Do you guys feel that way?
I think, look, Force Awakens being low as it was, and The Last Jedi. I really think when we have Rise of Skywalker in our homes, those three are going to find different places on these lists. That's what I think. I think when we are able to watch them, more than just once in the theater, or even the people that had Last Jedi very low, when they start to watch all three of them together, I feel like they're all going to have different places. That's what I think. They're just too new. Like Rise of Skywalker being third is definitely a product of it being so recency biased is what it is, right? It's a product of that. So I do love Rise of Skywalker, and that was the second movie, Phantom Menace and Rise of Skywalker, the two that I left the theater saying that might be my new favorite Star Wars movie. And like I say, I go into all of them hoping to think that. I've only come out twice thinking that. So they're Star Wars. They're all great. This is it. This has been our definitive ranking of the 11 live-action theatrical releases. The Ewok movies obviously would be number 1 and 2, with the holiday special being 3 on this list. We want to thank all of our friends, fellow podcasters and YouTubers for helping us with this list, and of course our Patreon supporters for submitting their list, usually with the oh my god, this was so hard subtitle to the list as well. Andrew Brock, thanks for doing this with me. Happy New Year. Everybody go drink a glass of water, take a Tylenol, a Gravol, whatever. Get rid of those hangovers you had. Ring in. This is a new decade, our first video of the new decade, 2020, the year of happy Star Wars fans. Not going to happen. Andrew, get out of here. And Brock, you were always scum.
Rebel scum.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.